Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What a great morning it has been so far. Exciting announcements, very interesting panels, historic visit. I've been told we have 20 minutes to interview, and all of them are A-listers, so each one of them deserves 20 minutes on their own, so I'm going to do my best. This is going to be quick. I'm going to be doing the introductions as we ask the questions. Probably I'm the only one on the panel that does need an introduction. Everybody else is world famous. Jerry Anzarello, I'm going to start with you. Jerry, you oversee Dar'iyah, 300 years of history, Saudi Arabia's first capital. You have the very exciting yet challenging job of preserving history, preserving heritage, but also expanding it. Could you give us a status update on your project? Where are you at, and what are the investment opportunities for the audience out there?
Yes, salam alaikum. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for making the time to be here on an historic day. Very humbled to be with my amazing colleagues. So Dar'iyah is the birthplace of the kingdom, the ancestral home of Al Saud, the center of cultural heritage and diplomacy. We are a 14 million square meter, $64 billion master plan that I'm very pleased to say that 7 years in is on time and on budget. So we just welcomed to the UNESCO World Heritage Site this week our 3 millionth visitor. We have 45,000 workers on the job now, a lot of opportunities. Very honored and pleased to say that right now we're doing business with 83 American companies, with a lot more companies to do, a lot more opportunities from all of us, especially Dar'iyah. But it's the birthplace of the kingdom. It's meant to be a pedestrian-friendly, sustainable, walkable city that celebrates Saudi identity, Saudi heritage, emphasizing culture, heritage, and diplomacy.
Fantastic. And allow me to move straight to Mike. Michael Dyke, you're the CEO of the new Murabba development. In a way, you do the opposite job of Jerry. You are venturing into the unknown. You're creating a new site altogether. It's going to be a huge landmark from what we've seen. I want to ask you about the technologies you're using. I want to see, we want to know whether it's going to be ready for Expo 2030, for the World Cup, and more importantly, what are the US companies or partners that you are dealing with to create something that hasn't been created before?
Sure, thank you. Salam alaikum. So New Murabba is a prime piece of real estate. It's adjacent to Dar'iyah. It's 19 square kilometers, and we have 27 million square meters of GLA to develop within the site. We have Muqab at the heart, so when you talk about technology, Muqab is one of the greatest, largest structures ever known to man or woman. It stands 400 meters cube, and inside Muqab is an immersive display of 360,000 square meters. So just to put that into context, MSG in Las Vegas, the Sphere, is 18,000, so we're 22 times the size of that. So when people enter Muqab, they enter another world. They will feel like they're in another world. There will be holograms, and there will be strong AI driving through the whole of the facility. As we step back around the wider site, we have a smart city, so we are a city that's born smart. Unlike Jerry, we have both the challenge and the luxury of being able to have a greenfield site, which means we can design and we can create space for the future, which means we can create a city which is born smart from the outset. In terms of the opportunities for investment, we already have many relationships with US organizations who have worked with us initially for strategy, then advisory, and firstly for the PMC work on the ground. We're currently 15 million cubic meters of rock has come out of the ground, and we'll start to pour our concrete very soon. The opportunities really for partnerships, one is in technology. I mentioned the immersive display. Holography is another area. AI is another area, and we have another 16 technology layers just inside the cube. As we step back from that, we then have massive technology opportunities from an investment perspective, FDI perspective, in terms of cooling systems, in terms of smart grids, power and water. And then when we think about the other opportunities, there's opportunities for engineering. There are opportunities also for real estate. So we have the full portfolio of everything from institutional investors through to joint ventures, sub-developers, and the whole suite of real estate. So we have many, many opportunities.
And just for people who haven't seen this, this is a massive cube.
Yes.
And it's going to be really one of the landmarks of Riyadh. I've really not seen anything like this anywhere in the world. What's the timeline on that?
So Muqab effectively comes on stream from 2030 onwards, and that will be the centerpiece of Numaraba. And it will be one of the iconic buildings of the world, but more importantly, it'll be another fantastic place that will complement the amazing stuff already in Riyadh. And I think the beauty is that when people come to Riyadh, there'll be something different and something new, which will just hold people and make them come back.
Fantastic. Speaking of people who are doing amazing work as well, we have Rayyan Al-Faiz from NEOM. Of course, the flagship Giga project. We know the Winter Olympics are coming soon at Regina. When I tell a lot of people we're going to have Winter Olympics in Saudi Arabia, people don't believe me. So we're going to hear it from the horse's mouth directly. We want to get a status update on NEOM. You know, what has been prioritized? We've seen the plans for the new stadium, which is going to be ready for the World Cup. All of these achievements or bids that Saudi Arabia won, has it changed the order or the priorities of what you are doing at NEOM?
Thank you. And thanks again, and it's a pleasure to be among colleagues and esteemed panelists. NEOM is 26,500 square kilometers. Which is the size of Massachusetts for those of you coming from the States. Building a city and a region of this scale requires significant infrastructure spend. So when we talk about some of the themes that we're spending our time and effort on, infrastructure is a big one. So whether it's digital infrastructure, 500 kilometers of fiber has already been laid, and a data center being built. Power and utility infrastructure, we already have solar and wind farms up, in addition to 194 kilometers of water pipeline. Food infrastructure, greenhouses being developed, because NEOM is not just a real estate development initiative, it's an economy building. So we have various sectors that are being activated as we speak, and the infrastructure there to support them. Social infrastructure with more than 100,000 beds for high quality construction villages for the labor, and in addition to all of that, significant industrial infrastructure. We're building the largest green hydrogen plant in the world. It's an $8.4 billion investment, a joint venture between NEOM, Aqua Power, and Air Products, which is of course a US company, with a significant investment coming into NEOM, developing what will become a green hydrogen hub. What we're also active on, and when we talk about notable events from the last year and beyond, is really activating our investment vehicle, the NEOM Investment Fund. About $1 billion of investments being made in frontier technologies. And obviously, it's no surprise that the lion's share of these investments has gone into US companies. We've invested in next generation mobility solutions like Zero Avia, Boom Supersonic, Regent, all in the mobility space. We've invested in Palindromics and Liberation Lab in the biotech and medical space. We've also invested in the food technology space in Blue Nalu, in addition to many other investments. So activating that as the arm through which we make investments into next generation technologies. And the US, of course, has been a leader as a recipient of these technologies. Now, when it comes to AI, we have made a lot of investment in the infrastructure, laying the ground for commercial and private capital to come. More than $16 billion of private capital investment has been committed to NEOM. In addition, obviously, which has been announced a couple of months ago, a $5 billion in a next generation AI facility by DataVolt. So the whole model is us making a lot of the upfront investment, laying the ground for commercial capital to come in, and we've been fortunate in the demand and appetite seeing from the private sector, particularly around infrastructure projects that we're doing right now.
Right. I'm going to come back to you to specific investment opportunities, but I want to go to John Pagano. John, as a Saudi who travels quite a lot and have many interactions around the world, probably in people's mind, when people think about Saudi Arabia, they're probably thinking about, you know, concrete jungles, big cities, deserts, even mountains. But, you know, the Red Sea islands, the resorts, isn't the first thing that comes to mind. You're leading a very exciting project, and perhaps, unlike the gentleman before you, you are naturally gifted with corals and a beautiful sea. Tell us a little bit about the Red Sea project. Is there another lineup of openings or launches that are happening? And what is the investment opportunity in your project?
Thank you, Faisal, and salam alaikum, everybody. So your description of what people think about Saudi Arabia is not far off the mark. In fact, I had that same imagination when I first came, and I was utterly blown away by what I witnessed on the west coast of Saudi Arabia. I saw pristine islands, I saw turquoise water, thriving coral reefs, and I thought, wow, it's just beyond belief that this exists in the Middle East and in Saudi Arabia. So, look, we've been busy right from the very beginning. We've been diligent in working towards fulfilling the goal of Vision 2030, which is to help diversify the economy, create a new tourism industry, with the help of colleagues. Obviously, Jerry does a lot of tourism in Diriyah as well. And we've opened for business. Our first opening was in November 23. We've since opened 5 total number of resorts at Red Sea. But the main event is this year. This year we have 19 resorts between the Red Sea project and Amala. It's a sister project that's 150 kilometers to the north. And all of those resorts are going to be completed this year. We built a new international airport. We built infrastructure. We're the largest tourism destination in the world that's completely off-grid, powered 100% by renewable energy 24 hours a day. When we complete the first phase of both projects, which will be at the end of this year, we will save 1 million tons of CO2 emissions that would otherwise go into the atmosphere. I'm also, in terms of investment opportunities, look, there's an abundance of them. We're open for business, as indeed all my colleagues are. We've worked with numerous American companies in engineering and design and PMC. We also work with a lot of manufacturers. You've got the likes of elevator manufacturers and airplane manufacturers. We have a seaplane business that's available. We've signed 2 very large infrastructure contracts, which are public-private partnerships or design, build, operate, transfer, which basically builds our utility infrastructure. Now, those didn't go to U.S. companies, but those opportunities still exist. As we expand the destination, we need more power, we need more water, and those opportunities avail. We've worked with all of the major hospitality brands out of the U.S., Marriott, Hyatt, Hilton, and there's plenty opportunities going forward.
And just to reiterate, everything you do is done with the precondition of preserving natural habitats, not being intrusive to nature. Could you tell us a little bit more about?
Sure. Well, actually, we go beyond that. So, everybody talked about sustainability. And indeed, that's what we started. When we started our journey, we said we're going to set new standards in sustainable development. But I sort of thought about that and reflected on it and thought, wait a sec, what does sustainability actually mean? Well, if you look it up, it means maintaining the status quo. And I sort of reflected on that and said, well, actually, we've done so much damage to our planet that we should seek to actually repair what's there, actually regenerate what's there. And we've coined the phrase regenerative development, regenerative tourism, which I'm proud to say is now firmly associated with Saudi Arabia and the Red Sea. And that basically means not only not doing any harm, but actually trying to positively improve it. So we grow corals, we grow mangroves, we grow seagrasses. We're 100% renewable, as I said, so we're not emitting pollutants into the air. We have the largest EV grid, electric vehicle charging grid, totally powered by renewable energies in the country. I'm sure my friend Ryan is going to beat that at some point, but it's basically walking the walk, not just simply talking the talk. And we're proud to be leading the global transition towards a new way to develop. And our goal is not only to leave a legacy for the kingdom and welcome the world, but also to perhaps coax others to follow our lead. We're demonstrating that it can be done, and we hope that others will indeed follow, and we'll all take that step towards minimizing climate change and protecting our future.
Thank you. One more question before I let you go. Of course, we've seen the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo come on holiday in your resort. Unfortunately, my soccer skills aren't that great. I should have paid more attention growing up. I suppose the question is, are you targeting a particular tier, or are there different tiers in the offering? Not everybody is as a successful soccer player as Cristiano Ronaldo, as you know.
there's very few successful soccer players at that level. No, look, I think there's a misconception about the Red Sea. I think everybody believes that it's only for the super wealthy, and that's not entirely true. Yes, the first resorts are on the more expensive side, but as I said, we're opening many more resorts this year, and our entry level becomes much more affordable. So we get down into the 4-star level, so it's within the reach of many people within the region and globally. So it's not just an elite destination, though we are careful about working and living within the environmental capacity, so we don't want to overdevelop. So we'll limit the number of visitors to the destination to no more than 1 million visitors a year, subject to change, because we continuously monitor the environment using technology in its various forms to ensure that we have early indicators of anything that's not going to plan, so that we can take the appropriate actions as and when.
All right, I'm going to move to Tony Douglas, who also has the very simple job of launching a new airline from scratch to more than 100 destinations by 2030, if I have it correctly. John, same question to you. From inception, where we are now, we would like a pulse check, and are we going to meet that target in 2030?
Assalamu alaikum. What an incredible day. And I think our line of business is about etisal, connecting, about connecting people, connecting cultures, connecting businesses, connecting the opportunities for experiences. We've already heard from 4 incredible giga projects that are presenting new opportunities, world-class destination attractions, and the responsibility of Riyadh Air is to allow the world to have better connectivity to the kingdom, and importantly, for the citizens of the kingdom to have far better connectivity to the world. And of course, the theme of a gathering like this is at every level. 2 amazing countries, 2 amazing cultures, lots of businesses that want to connect. And Riyadh Air wants to play a small and humble part in making that a lot easier. But US businesses, big part of what we do, our airframes, Boeing,
Of course, yes.
our engines, GE. Many of the technology platforms we use are incredible American digital businesses. Our airline partners, the headline of that is Delta in the United States of America. So going forward with an amazing partner like Delta, with Riyadh Air, we want to make it seamless, an incredible experience, but most of all, to extend Hafawa. Hafawa for visitors to the kingdom is the warm welcome from Saudi Arabia. Warm welcome when we pick you up in Atlanta or New York, before you actually experience it firsthand in any of the destinations that you've heard from here in the capital city or anywhere else within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And today, I think, is just one of those great punctuation points in this amazing journey together.
But absolutely. But I suppose my question, as you know, there has been, since the pandemic really, supply chain issues. We hear about manufacturers not being able to meet delivery dates. Could you give us an update on where the airline is at the moment, and whether that target of reaching 100 destinations is attainable by 2030?
So it's a big, ambitious target, but guess what? Everything we do here in the kingdom has big, ambitious targets. We're very open. We can't do it without great partners. Many of the great partners that I've already described. In our world, there's lots of complexity and there's always challenges. Has delivery certainty been something we've been worried about? Of course it is, just like everybody else. But working with people constructively in an engaging fashion, we've been actually knocking those risks down. So if we go to Charleston, South Carolina tomorrow, what we'll see going down Boeing's production line is 3 of our first 787-9s. For me, that's good for the soul. But for the traveling public, that's going to be great for connectivity going forward.
Absolutely, and I must commend your communications team. They do keep us updated through social media and through their press releases. Well done on that. Last, but certainly not least, I want to turn to you, Dara. I'm sure you experienced the Riyadh traffic, and I wanted to ask you whether you thought the work that you do as Uber is what the capital needs, or should we be investing more in public transportation, or do they complement each other?
Salam alaikum, it's great to be here. I do think that, first of all, the kingdom for us represents one of our top growing markets. We've got over 140,000 drivers now, Saudi nationals on the platform, 4 million riders. We operate in 20 cities across the kingdom and growing at very healthy levels, and hopefully with all this building going up, continue to grow. We're growing at 70+% now. I do think that Uber and public transit really do complement each other. There's a perception that to some extent Uber competes with public transit, but actually our top competitor is personal car ownership. And what we see in cities that have a strong public transit infrastructure, we see people using their cars less, and Uber becomes a first mile and last mile solution to public transit. So for example, with Riyadh Metro system now, that is absolutely gorgeous, incredible, we offer discounted rides for first mile and last mile from the metro to get to your home or get to the restaurant wherever you want. And what we're trying to then build is a lifestyle that is essentially a complement with public transit, where our cars and drivers are used to move in the first and last mile. It's a much more efficient system, and ultimately creates cities where you don't need space for parking, et cetera, and you can use your space for living as well. So we're very excited about our connection with public transit, and ultimately we think that Uber, public transit together in a multimodal way is the way of the future, and it's certainly where we're investing.
And the good thing about conferences like these and speaking to visionaries such as yourself is we get a glimpse of the future. Do you see autonomous vehicles coming in anytime soon? Not just to this country, but we would love to hear your views on the topic worldwide, but more specifically, are there any discussions here with Uber?
Absolutely. Autonomous is a incredible potential for us. And for us, what autonomous represents is, first of all, safer streets. The autonomous driver isn't distracted, isn't going to be texting while they're driving, et cetera. And it's a driver that continuously learns from all the experience and all the miles driven all over the world. And for us, we're in passenger vehicle travel, delivery, and we're in freight as well, all of which are going to be revolutionized by autonomous transportation. Ultimately, autonomous will not only be safer, but will also be a cheaper form of transportation, making on-demand transportation available for everybody. We are now working with 18 autonomous partners. We'll be the partner, kind of a platform that works with the cities in which we operate to make sure that autonomous technologies are introduced in a safe manner that works with the regulators and works with every city. And yes, we are now speaking with autonomous partners and the ministries here, and you will see autonomous vehicles in Saudi this year. It's something that we are very focused on. Everything that the kingdom does is with ambition and with moment, and we are very excited that you will see autonomous vehicles in Saudi this year.
The headline tomorrow is going to say that you say there's going to be autonomous vehicles in Saudi Arabia next year.
I'll take that headline.
Great. Jerry, I want to go back to you. Given the forum and the event that we're in, we perhaps dived into the investment opportunities. But you actually have a legacy project. You're sort of supervising or being the guardian of really the heart or the origins of the country. Your famous slogan is, "There's only one Daraya." And Perhaps you might explain a little bit about the history and what is Diriyah comparable to around the world? Would you say, for example, it's the equivalent of the Colosseum, it's the equivalent of the pyramids? Can we just give people a bit of context about how much history and what Diriyah is all about?
Yes. As everybody knows, we rejoice each September 23rd on what we call National Day, which will be the 95th. But that celebrates the unification of the third Saudi state, starting from His Majesty King Abdulaziz. But that doesn't indicate that the kingdom is 95 years old, because the kingdom on the first Saudi state is 300 years old. So thanks, and we always send our love and praise to the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman, and obviously our great Prime Minister, the Crown Prince, because in the last few years, as we all know, we rejoice in creating a federal holiday every February 22nd that's called Founding Day. Now, on February 22nd, 2027, we will celebrate the 300th birthday of the first Saudi state. So Diriyah lives in one of the most famous oases, as we call it, wadis here, Wadi Hanifa. You have a city that is 300 years old that was built out of all organic materials, mud and palm trees and stuff, in an oasis, right? So now with sustainability, and I know no one that does it better than John, but we're mud typologies, The Crown Prince made us make 20 million mud bricks like can, the same way they were done 300 years ago. So Diriyah would have the authenticity. But let me give you an idea of size, especially to my fellow Americans, even as an adopted Saudi. Beverly Hills, California is 14.6 million square meters. Diriyah is 14.2 million square meters. So we're protecting culture, heritage, national identity, sense of pride, diplomacy, in a pedestrian walkable city where we've already planted 6 million trees and already finished 9 kilometers of parks with Smart City. So think of Beverly Hills in the Metroplex of Los Angeles is Diriyah, the birthplace of the kingdom, in the Metroplex of what's going to be even a further brilliant Riyadh with all of the projects together.
And I want to do just a follow-up question, only because of all the distinguished guests on the panel. You've probably moved here the first. This is probably not something that people talk a lot about, but how is your experience being an expat CEO living in Saudi Arabia? Again, a lot of people have a lot of ideas. I cannot convince them, but perhaps they could hear it from the horse's mouth.
Well, I think John was first, and he was boots on the ground before me to do the brilliant job he's doing.
Retraction, sorry.
In the Red Sea. But for me, it's 7 years, June 4th, and I've been in tourism, as you know. I mean, now my college roommate was Moses, so that shows you how old I am. But I'm in tourism now, 58 years, and I have to say, this is my legacy project. And this is the highlight of mine. Because, in my career, I've had to make stuff up, Atlantis and different things. When you're dealing with authenticity, like, look at the Red Sea, how beautiful. Look at Jeddah. Look at the empty quarter. Look at Al-Asa. So for me and my great Saudi team, 83% Saudi, 39% Saudi women, 16% in management, 14% of my staff from Diriyah. It's a great honor. So as an expat, we love it here. And to have the privilege of working with His Royal Highness, who supports every one of us every day, has been an honor of a long career.
Michael, I want to ask you the same question.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm very interested when you were offered the job. It was obviously a massive challenge. What was going through your mind, and how do you feel about that challenge now?
Look, I think you step into these things with your eyes wide open. 2 factors. One, building upon what Jerry said, the first time I came to Riyadh, I had no preconception as to what I was going to find. But within the first hour of waking up in the morning and seeing families happy, messing around, the atmosphere, the vibrancy, the energy, was amazing. And literally, you know within an hour whether you think you can function in this place. And over the course of that weekend, to me, it just became something I've seen for the last 2 years, which is warmth, hospitality, authenticity, and a genuine sense of people actually wanting to bring you into their world. I don't live on a compound, I live in a Saudi neighborhood, and I chose to do that because actually if I'm in Saudi, I want to be like Saudi. So with that being the case, you know, from my perspective, it's been a very, very straightforward journey. And of course, the challenge is enormous, but actually we're not here because things are easy, we're here because things are hard. And what I mean by that is we're here to do the impossible, because if we set those kind of objectives, we'll certainly end up a long way past what is feasible today, and certainly in terms of what we're trying to do at Numaraba in the Macabre. We're trying to put tech in that actually doesn't exist today, but by 2030 it will. And our challenge is to make sure it's future-proofed, because the tech we select today and we put in 27 or whatever will actually be obsolete by 2030. So we have to build in that resilience for the future.
I'm going to ask Rayan, as the Saudi on the panel, the question in reverse. Can you tell us a little bit, and I'm sure you were here before John Pagano, so talk to us a little bit, because when people think about NEOM, they really think about infrastructure, about buildings, tractors, etc. Could you tell us a little bit about the community? How many nationalities are there? What's their life like in NEOM?
So today we have almost 4,800 employees. From more than 100 nationalities. And they've all come together and actually living and working in NEOM as we speak. Many of them have brought families, so we have a vibrant community on the ground. We have a school in place. Obviously, these are the temporary communities that are building NEOM. It's not the end state of NEOM. I think what just, you know, when you talk about infrastructure and buildings, etc., we shouldn't lose sight of what the vision of NEOM should be. When His Royal Highness was sitting here and announced NEOM in 2017, he raised the iPhone and the old phone and said NEOM will be similar to this compared to the other phones. This is not a hardware play, it's a software as well. The iPhone is there, the iPhone is the iPhone, not because it's black and rectangular and it's a good hardware, it's because of the iOS system, everything that builds into it that keeps everyone attached through the visitor, through the user experience, and equally through the visitor experience and resident experience in NEOM. And in my view, that's the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is not only building the buildings, but also creating the software, if you will, within NEOM to deliver on the promise of His Royal Highness and delivering that vision of the future.
And in my earlier question, because I'm sure a lot of people would be very interested to know about the events coming up. So the Winter Olympics in Trigina, the World Cup. Again, when people think of NEOM, perhaps they still don't envision it as a place where you know, such activities happen. Could you run us through the pipeline, what's going through in terms of events that are scheduled over the next few years?
I mean, you've seen the public announcements around this. The World Cup is a significant one. One of the stadiums in NEOM will be a host city, inshallah. Winter Olympics, when you visit NEOM, hopefully all of you will, we have mountaintops as high as 2,600 meters. Weather there is amazing. We get a little bit of snow, but the man-made snow that complements it will create ski slopes up to 35 kilometers of skiable ski slopes, in addition to the lake that we're building up in the mountain, which is why we need all this power and water to really deliver on these. So a lot of this is actually being experimented as we speak. We're not waiting until the date and to deliver it. And in fact, we have already posted some pictures of people skiing and videos of people skiing in NEOM as we speak, using that man-made snow. So it's exciting. I think it's challenging, but I do think, going back to what Michael said, that the impact that you leave behind in a project as challenging and as large as NEOM is, as well as all of the other giga projects, I think it's what drives the passion and the excitement in all of our jobs.
100%, and it's truly fascinating, really, the work you are doing. Tony, I want to go to you a little bit to understand a bit more about the aviation plans. So Riyadh Air, obviously, the hub is going to be Riyadh. We hear a lot of talks about different regions having their own airlines, NEOM having its own airline, probably Eastern Province. Could you just for clarity, explain to us what, from a helicopter view, if you don't mind the fun, how does it pan out?
Sure. So again, for many of our American guests, they'll be very familiar with the scale of the landmass. But to put it into context, the kingdom is the equivalent size of Texas, plus California, plus Montana, plus Utah. So get an idea of the scale. So clearly to have only one global international carrier, there's a lot more demand than Saudia can currently provide on its own. Saudia is a sister company. When we get to scale and become mature, we will hub out of the capital city. The brand is Riyadh. For Mr. Jerry Inzarello, the brand is Riyadh. The brand is Riyadh.
Only Riyadh.
Saudia, their ancestral home is Jeddah, and what that will give us is two large carriers that can internationally connect. But back to the landmass of the kingdom, it needs a lot of domestic connectivity as well.
Yes.
And I go back to the earlier comment, we're in the hospitality business. We're here to serve. What we also want to do with Riyadh Air is bring some of that glamour back to flying. And again, back to my American colleagues here, I always narrate it back to those kind of halcyon days of commercial aviation, Pan Am, TWA. The cabin crew used to walk through a terminal building and people would stop to look at them because it was beauty, it was glamour, it was refinement, it was grace. Take a look, if you've not done so already, at the imagery of the Riyadh Air cabin crew fashion. We want to bring that excitement back to it, but allowing people from all around the world to come and enjoy people and culture. And I think that's the magic that brings us together, whether it's a business environment like this, whether it's an experience environment. But, in the world of red-blooded capitalists, we're all business people. How do I normally judge who I prefer to do business with? It's about people and culture. And that's what I think makes these two countries and the cultures that they represent so special.
Absolutely. So, if I understand correctly, no competition with Saudia. You complement each other. What about other regional airlines who also offer a premium product?
So within Kingdom, we'll obviously have plenty of connectivity with short-haul operators, as well as we as Riyadh Air will connect to destinations the likes of John and so forth, and certainly with NEOM as well. But we've deliberately gone for a global partnership approach. We can't do it as a startup quickly, all on our own. So North America, the example I used before, Delta will give us connectivity through North and South America. But as importantly, the other way around, for American tourists and business people to have easier access to the kingdom. If we go in the opposite direction, simply as an example, we've done a similar deal with Singapore Airlines. And again, we chose Singapore back to the people and the culture and the standard of excellence that they represent in offering service. Again, we're in the hospitality business. We're here to serve.
May I say, from what I hear, I think your slogan should be, "You're making aviation great again." So we can't wait to try the airline. Speaking of competition, I want to move to the Red Sea project. Obviously, as I alluded earlier, naturally blessed with the beautiful sea, with the corals, etc. But there is plenty of competition out of there in terms of resorts. As close as Egypt, as far as the Maldives, and beyond. What would you say is the point of differentiation? What is the competitive advantage of the project you're overseeing?
Good question. Look, I think fundamentally it's our nature. We have an environment that is pristine. And I don't want to deride any of our competitors, but they've all had challenges along the way in terms of overdevelopment, overexploiting their environment. We've taken a totally different approach, as I said earlier, around regeneration and really celebrating our wonderful nature and protecting it for future generations to enjoy. So I think that in and of itself makes it a very significant differentiator. I think if you were to survey people, and there are many surveys now being run, more and more people want to travel sustainably. We're providing that choice to people. So yes, you can still go to all these other destinations, but if you want to really truly travel sustainably, to leave as light a footprint on the planet as you can, come to the Red Sea. And then lastly, and it has to be said, we have an amazing climate, which again, most people won't realize. It's not, the weather in the Red Sea coast is not like it is in Riyadh or even on the Gulf in terms of temperatures and in terms of humidity. In the summer months, we're like the south of Europe. So it's comparable to France and Italy and so on. So weather is good. We have no rain. We have no hurricanes, no low pressure systems. So we don't always have this big fall off. And then lastly, and probably as importantly, we're accessible, especially with the help of Tony bringing, greater connectivity. If you think about traveling to the Red Sea, we're 5 to 6 hours from most Western European cities. We're in virtually the same time zone, so there's no jet lag. If you come from Europe today, it's 1 hour time difference. So you're exactly in the same time zone. And it's, as I said, 5 to 6 hours. So convenience, accessibility. And then last, but certainly not least, the Saudi people, Hafawa. The warmth and the hospitality is one of our major assets. It's something that we want to celebrate because people will come to appreciate it. Travelers today, especially luxury travelers, want genuine, authentic experiences. And we have it in abundance at the Red Sea. So we think we'll hold our own against all these other competitive sets. But I said we're offering something rather different, particularly insofar as it deals with the environment.
What a great way to end this session. Gentlemen, I would really love to spend all afternoon with you. It has been truly insightful. I wish we could extend this panel a little bit, but the lady speaking in my ear says we have to wrap it up now. I did try my luck to push it a bit longer. We simply can't get enough of you. Good luck in all the exciting projects you are all working on. And on behalf of everybody, thank you for all the insights. Thank you very much.